to everybody. I wish all of you joy and happiness and peace. And I have been given the responsibility to speak to all of you about interpersonal relationships. And this topic is so close to my heart that I don't feel like teaching it or talking about it from a PPT. Uh, because we humans, we are when we look at human beings, there are multiple layers to us, right? And what that layer that differentiate between an animal and a human is our connections with people around us, right? So someone once asked a very leading anthropologist of her time, Dr. Marisa, that what, according to you, is one of the most differentiating factor, or one of the most, you know, uh, I would say, a turning point in the history of human beings. She was an anthropologist. So when you ask a question like this from anthropologists who study evolution of humans, they study tribes and their rituals and everything. So everybody expected that either she would say it's the discovery of fire, or she would say it's discovery of wheel. However, what Dr. Marisa told everybody was that when they recovered a healed femur bone in one of the excavations, that she thinks is one of the turning points in the history of humankind. Now, for those of you who do not come from science, femur is the largest bone in our body. It is the thigh bone. And if femur is broken or cracked or chipped, a person cannot walk, right? And the bone was recovered in an era when we were still hunter-gatherers. We were tribes. We used to move from one place to another in search of food and shelter. And a femur takes good about 2-3 months to get healed. So she says that if somebody had waited for that femur to get healed, that means either someone stayed back with that sick person, or the whole tribe decided to stay back with the sick person and wait for that person to recover, or someone must have carried that person on one's back and not abandoned that person. That was the beginning of compassion, care, and togetherness. That's the first sight of evidence of building up of this softer side of human beings. Before that, we were untamed apes, quite like animals and less like humans. So let me tell you the characteristics that define us, that make us who we humans are, is compassion, love, cooperation, togetherness, and connections. Often, I teach child psychology. And I'm a parenting consultant. So often, you would say that child is throwing tantrums, or a child is seeking attention by throwing tantrums. From perspective of a child psychologist, children don't seek attention, they seek connection. Now, the tiny creatures who come to this world, which is, filled with adults, big humans, right? And they are so helpless and they're completely dependent. You all know it, that human beings, they rely for the longest on their caretakers and parents and guardians. Most of the animals, they have to be on their own, immediately after birth. The mama giraffe, she really kicks the baby giraffes very hard so that he's able to stand up on his feet. If he does not do that, he's the yummiest treat to any predator around, right? So human beings seek only one thing, and that is connections. And that connections is what is called as interpersonal relationships. We all sometimes tend to use some maladaptive ways of making those connections, right? We use power, we use coercion, we use aggression. But what we are seeking is a connection. Our strategy might be wrong, but ultimately we all are scared of abandonment, isolation. And I think that is a saza. That's a, when people are put to jail, what do we do then? We actually disconnect them from the outside world, isn't it? And that's precisely what happened in COVID. How many of you think we died of the virus? कितने लोगों को लगता है that we died of the humans who died, the death tolls, they happened because of the virus? Any hand raises? If
20%.
no, sorry,
20% from
20%. Acha, the rest of 80%, what do you think we died of? Any idea? Any clue or any perspective?
disconnect from social.
Very true. We died either of fear or we died of, as Sir mentioned, disconnection, isolation. We belong to a community, we belong to a country where we really take good care of our sick. When someone falls sick, everybody goes and visits that person, isn't it? Uh, we give them strength, we give them courage, we solace them, we tell them you'll be fine, we are together. But in this particular disease, what happened? We had to isolate the person. We could not feed them. And the people, the caregivers, the frontline workers who were looking after them, they were also, wearing PPE, plastic kits. There was no human touch, right? So we actually died of isolation. We died of the fear that, oh, my near and dear ones are not around. What would happen to them? What would happen to me? And this term that was created, social distance, was a disaster, my dear friends. I wish they had consulted a psychologist. We only needed physical distance from each other. We did not need to be socially distant from each other. So that, kind of really perpetuated in our psyches. And the fear of dying and the uncertainty and the suddenness and the vagueness of everything, it killed us, right? So we gain strength from each other. We derive so much of warmth from each other. We derive hope from each other, right? That is the power of interpersonal connections. Okay, my one question to all of you: where do sunflowers face, or why are they called sunflowers? Anyone? Why are sunflowers called sunflowers? Come on, you know it.
The
No?
movement flower according to the sun movement.
Yes, absolutely. Sunflowers always face the sun, right? In the morning, they're facing the east. In the afternoon, they're facing upward. And in the evening, they're facing the west, right? And when the sun goes down, they droop, isn't it? Do you know what do sunflowers do when there are days together when there is no sun? Anybody? They face each other. So we human beings also face each other when the sunshine is not there, when there is little uncertainty in our lives, when there is certain not normal kind of an atmosphere around us. We all seek courage and we all seek hope and warmth from one another. That is the need or the requirement for interpersonal relationships, isn't it? And the world that we are living in, we are so egocentric now. It's all about I, me, myself. Isn't it? Maximum I would think of as family. There is a term happening in corporate culture. It's called DINK, DINK. Anybody? The full form of DINK? Anyone? Double income, no kids.
No kids.
Yes, right, Professor. Right. So double income, no kids. And the sociological and the social psychological perspective, I remember my professor who talked about it in one of the classes 20 years ago. Right? She said the social psychological perspective to this is that, people have become, or even couples or the so-called would-be parents have become so clingy when it comes to material, they don't even want to share it with their children. Right? We feel kam ho jayega. We'll be deprived of something. Can we really give the kind of life we want to give to our children? To do that, we'll have to spend money, our hard-earned money. Right? So ever since, friends, we have moved on from a collectivistic culture to individualistic culture, you know how steep moral decline we have seen in the society. We were meant to be together. We were meant to be communities. Right? So, when we were hunter-gatherers, we were communities. When we were cultivators, we were communities. Isn't it? Economy of effort, economy of labor and everything. Then came the Industrial Revolution. And that was the time when my income became my income and your income became your income. There was no need for working together to enhance the economic prosperity. isn't it? And now comes the corporate culture, right? Where crab eats crab. There's a joke, one of my very senior friends, he cracks that joke. He says all the countries, they were exporting crabs to the world. And most of the containers would come sealed. And it was so funny that the container that would come from India did not have a lid. And they got so scared that this whole consignment, they've just sent us an empty container. But when they looked in, it was full of crabs, but no lid. They say in India, the Indian crabs have this mentality: when someone is trying to climb up, there are other people who will pull them down. Right. So, this is the kind of culture and this is the kind of milieu that we are living in. Instead of being a support to each other and wind behind anybody's wings, we are just trying to pull them down. That is how there are so many psychological problems, isn't it? Because, see, my career was never needed in India. Psychologists were never required in India because we always had somebody or the other in our family who would listen to us, who would have some wisdom to share, who would have the patience to hold our hand and say, I'm here. You can come and confide in me. There were people around us, isn't it? With the breaking, thread of the society where it's all nuclear families, where both parents are working, isn't it? Who does one go to? So you go to a professional, right? You pay a professional because you want to be heard. So let's please understand this thing for once and for all, no matter how economically, prosperous we become, how much money we earn, right? What status we reach, right? We need people around us. We derive warmth from them. We derive life from people around us. So no matter what profession are you in, no matter what your salary is, what is the address of your house and how big a mansion you live in, right? We need people. And to have people in our lives, because we don't live in extended families anymore now. We don't live in joint families anymore now, right? To have a circle of care and warmth and excellence around her, we need some skills. We need to make some investments in people who you know who we desire to have in our lives. So let's talk about those interpersonal skills. Before I move on to the skills, any experience anyone who want to share, or anybody who kind of resonate with this idea of the need we human have for people around us? I would love to hear somebody or your perspective on that. Do you agree with me? Shanti nahi chahiye. I don't want this silence, this lull. Just speak up your mind. Just share your perspective. Do you think you resonate with what I said just now? Do you think we need to address this interpersonal skills and we need people? Yes or no? Are you all listening? Are you all with
Yes,
me?
ma'am.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for answering. So, no news is good news. And if you don't say a no to it, I'm assuming you're saying yes, right? Let's move on to. Uh,
Yes, ma'am, we are listening.
thank you, sir. Thank you very
And
much.
agreed with you, we need to work on interpersonal skill. And one of the point that you raised is we need to build our listening abilities.
Very much. Very much. Okay, now let's talk about listening skills. Let's start our journey of interpersonal skills from this basic modality, right? And how useful it is or how powerful it is to create connections amongst people, right? So, see, God has given us 2 ears and one mouth. And the message that has been, I would say, programmed within us with the hardware that we have been given is listen more and talk less. When you look at Ganesha and the big ears of Lord Ganesha, and if you study the embodiment of Lord Ganesha, he's the Ganapati. We are Ganas and he's our Pati. Pati mani Raja, you know. He's the head of human beings. That is why he's called as Ganapati, right? So the big ears, the elephant that he has, the big ears that he has, just an indicator or it is just an epitome of the need to be a good listener, right? You must have heard this old adage that the path to a man's heart is through his stomach. So na hoga, right? This is very sexist, very chauvinistic, right? So a more neutral version of this statement is the path to a person's heart is through your ears, right? If you really desire to form connections, develop this habit of empathetic listening. We always have this urge to speak, though I don't see that urge in this particular group. You're brilliant listeners. I only hope you're listening and not just hearing, right? People really like to be heard. I would repeat this thing, what I'm saying today in my tomorrow session also. See, we all have three basic physiological needs: roti, kapra, makan, food, shelter, and clothes. So, as we have basic physiological needs, we have three basic psychological needs: to be heard, to be seen, and to be valued. Right? So, when I ask you a question and you don't respond, oh, the feedback you give me is that I'm not being heard. That's why I said, are you listening? Are you there? Right. So being heard, or when you listen to someone, you're merely not listening. You're constantly giving this feedback to the other person. You're valuable to me. You're important for me. Right? I am investing my time in you. We only invest time in things, in activities, in people who matter something, who matter, or who mean something for us, isn't it? Or else, time is one of the most precious commodities of 21st century. You know, 30 seconds reel is all we can watch. That is our attentional span. However, if you listen to someone with rapt attention, not judging that person. When I talk, see, one is listening, the other is empathetic listening. That's very, very important to understand. And I would be repeating a lot of concepts tomorrow, because tomorrow also I'm going to talk about team building. Right. So when you listen to someone, you give rapt attention to someone, and you put this particular apparatus at rest, and you don't get distracted easily, and you look into the eyes of the person, or if you know the cultural barrier or the gender barrier is not there, you just put a hand on the shoulder of that person, right? And this gentle gesture, I'm there, I'm listening to you, tell me what you are going through, right? That person is sold out. That person is yours forever. So, one is listening. The next step is empathetic listening. When we talk about empathetic listening, we are not judging that other person. We are not correcting that other person. We are not telling that other person, oh, ye to kuch bhi nahi. This is nothing. You don't know what I have gone through. We have this tendency. Okay, let me put you into different situation, or let me share some different contexts with all of you to have your perspective on that. Let's suppose, you had your boss was rude to you, and you're really upset because he really gave you his peace of mind in front of many other colleagues of you, and you're hurt and you're disappointed. Correct? And this person comes and talks to you and shares that, see, this is what my boss has done, right? And now, there are two, three different scenarios I'm going to put you in. First thing you tell this person is, uh, see, you can't complain. If you are in a job, you can't complain. This is how it is. You better get used to it. Tell me, how does it feel?
Not good.
Not good, isn't it? Will you share your problems or your concerns with this person ever again?
No, ma'am.
We'll not be
Not.
able to share because we'll have a kind of unrest and we'll not be able to share how are we feeling about it.
Absolutely. Isn't it? You know what happened now, just now? You did not feel understood. This person is giving you an advice, all right. Maybe he really is a well wisher, but the way the advice has come to you, sorry, right? The way that advice has come to you, it's like, right on your face. So please, when somebody is sharing something with you, hold on, He wants to say, he wants to empty himself or herself, doesn't want to refill it up with your way of fixing things or your way of handling things. You might be brilliant, but just hang on. Let that whole thing, let the catharsis happen, right? Let whatever has filled this person up get out of his system. Make some room for something new to get poured in his system, right? Don't jump the guns. So, one bit of advice that I would give you regarding listening is don't give advice. Unsolicited advice, not needed. Somebody is sick, somebody has a bad throat. We have 110 indigenous techniques to tell them. Mulati kha lo, long kha lo, kali mirchi kha lo, tulsi kha lo, chai kha lo. What do you think this person doesn't know about it? We say only one thing: please follow your doctor's advice. That is it. Look after yourself. If you need anything, I'm there for you. Right? Just step back from other people. Stop. Kind of tiptoeing into other people's life. Not needed. So, one thing we do not do when people share things with us: offering advice. The second thing we do not do when people share something with us is, oh, this is nothing. You do not know what happened with me. So when you say that, my one foot is broken, oh, this is nothing. I had an accident, both my foot were affected. When you say my son has a board exam from day after, oh, this is nothing. Both children have their exams from 2 days after. Isn't it? You're again, shutting person up. Right? You're inching and wanting. This is power play. You're wanting more and more space in that other, and tell them that your problem is nothing. See, I told you there are 3 basic human needs: need to be heard, need to be seen, and need to be valued. You did not make that person feel seen, feel heard. Right? Again, you lose on the connection. So, how do you build connections is not by yapping your way out. I know I've been speaking for last half an hour, but this is what I've been assigned to do. Trust me, friends, my profession of a counselor is all about listening. Just listening with rapt attention, not giving them advice, not telling them how to fix things up, but to listen to them and ask them questions till the time they are not able to find the solution, their own solution. I help people to help themselves, not by sharing any of, my ways of doing things, but helping them evolve their ways of doing things. And trust me, all my clients end up becoming very good friends because they feel heard and they feel understood. Right? So, listening is first thing. Second thing is empathetic listening. And empathy ka matlab hota hai looking at the world from someone else's perspective. Putting your foot in other person's shoe and knowing where it hurts, rather than tiptoeing in your heels and painting the city red, not realizing what the person is going through. That needs patience. And I think patience is something that we all are short of nowadays. Time ही नहीं है, वही 24 घंटे, but किसी के पास भी time नहीं है. Right? So, forming connections, step number 1, zip this, open them. See, God has not even given us any lids on our ears. Why? They never shut down. You can shut down your eyes, you can shut down your mouth. You cannot naturally shut down your ears. Hear the message, my dear friends, from nature. It wants you to receive and be receptive and understand people and care for them and be empathetic with them. And that's how connections are formed. Whereas, what is our desire? What we long for and what we crave for? Corrections. Whether you are a parent or an adult or in a power position, if you are a boss, you're a teacher. Teachers are very powerful people, let me tell you. Right? So what we have been trained to make corrections. You forget everything that I'm sharing today with all of you today. Just take one bit of wisdom home. Change correction to connection. First, you connect. Once you've formed that connection, once that bond has formed, once someone has started trusting you, right, and they consider you as your well-wisher, automatically you will tell them something and they will accept it gracefully. That's when the correction will happen automatically. You will not have to use power, you will not have to use force. There is no punishment required. The jails will be khali, let me tell you. We talk about restorative justice. I work a lot with jail inmates, jail officers, police, and all that. And we are precisely teaching them all this, right? So, connections before correction. With children also, form connections first. How do you form connections? Listen to them. Those of you who are parents of teenagers, I am also a parent of a teenager, 17-year-old, right? When our children used to come back home in their kindergarten, they were all full of, what happened? Mama, you know what happened? Mama, she said that. That happened. Teacher said this. My friend said this. Right? And by the time they are 13, 14, 15, they're hardly talking. You got to poke them and then they'll say, hey, don't bother, please. Don't bother me. Isn't it? So when we do not listen to their small stuff when they are small, they do not share the big stuff when they are grown-ups. Because their small stuff, which we thought is small, is very big for them. Lack of empathy, lack of listening skills. And then as, teenage parents, we wonder what went wrong. Where did we go wrong? Our children do not listen to us. Did you listen to them? Is the question that you need to ask yourself. बच्चे नहीं सुनते, juniors नहीं सुनते, staff नहीं सुनता, students नहीं सुनते. Oh, this world is an echo, my dear friends. What you sow is what we reap. Isn't it? The world is an echo. What we put in comes back to us. So be mindful of what you are putting in. What are you sowing? And that will come back to you naturally. So if you sow love, if you sow understanding, if you sow empathy, that is going to come back to you effortlessly, so gracefully. Yes, you're right, Dr. Garima. It is the karma cycle, as simple as that. Right? So when it comes to interpersonal relationship, you don't have to really be bothered about what other people are doing. Yeah? Everything boils down to this. You, yourself. It is all about raising your consciousness. It's all about building up your skill set. It's all about changing the way you look at the world. And, changing, it's all self-work, as simple as that. And it's the easiest to do. है ना वो बोले ना एक आपने शायद सुना होगा those of you don't speak Hindi I'll translate you for it in English कि जब मैं छोटा था मैं नादान था दुनिया को बदलने चला था अब मैं बड़ा हो गया I'm wiser now and I'm only changing myself. That's what I'm talking to you all about. So when I was young I was wanting to change the world. Now I am maturer, I'm wiser, I'm only wanting to change myself. Right? So we got to be amorphous. We got to be flexible, right? So that is listening, which actually is the core, the base, the foundation for healthy interpersonal relationship. Because the moment someone feels heard, right, the more they feel that this person is invested in me, isn't it? This person is bothered about me. I matter to this person, right? And the connection is formed. After that, with the best of your intention, you can do all three things. You can influence, you can impact, and you can manipulate. Manipulation is generally regarded as something which is little tricky, right? But if the intention is right, manipulation is also a very healthy interpersonal strategy, right? You are doing it for the good of the other person, not letting that person that you are doing it. Right? So develop that impact and influence first. And to do that, you first need to have that connection. Okay? Now, the second very important thing that we need to understand when it comes to interpersonal communication is that we do not stone the hive from where we derive honey. Right? अगर कहीं से कहीं मधुमक्खी के बी हाइव से आपको हनी निकालना है ना तो आप उस पे पत्थर नहीं मारते हो. Now, this is precisely what we do. You want something to work in a certain manner for you or to just work for you, but you're rude. You're straight on the face. right? You are inconsiderate, isn't it? We tend to insult some people sometimes, right? Or, we are so brash in our language that we have hurt that person so badly. And then later on we say, "Meri te koi gal hi nahi sunda. Nobody listens to me. My child doesn't listen to me. My colleague doesn't listen to me. My subordinate doesn't listen to me." Why will they? Look at the language that you speak. How curt you are. How bland you are. Or how disrespectful or sometimes we are. Isn't it? Because that's the way we have been exposed to. See, Indian families or our generation of children, most of us has been raised in families where spare the rod and spoil the child. पिटाई नहीं लगाओगे तो बच्चे बिगड़ जाएंगे. Isn't it? We still carry that belief in us. Times have changed, my dear friends. Right? You got to treat everybody around you as adults. Isn't it? And building stronger relationship, it's very, very simple. Be mindful of your language. Your words have a lot of power. Use them mindfully. Extremely powerful. Right? The more courteous, the more polite and considerate you are towards the other person, the more mindful of your language you are towards the other person, stronger relationships you build, and people will actually follow you. People will be with you. Okay? So, as I said, that words have power, isn't it? It is through words that we impact and influence. So, first we heard people without giving them advice, without hogging space and power from them, right? And now, when we are talking, because communication is the only medium through which we can strengthen our interpersonal relationships, isn't it? Now we are talking, we are very mindful of our words. We are courteous and polite, and we value someone else's dignity. Do that, irrespective of what that person does, isn't it? Your words need to be courteous, polite, and caring enough that you respect the identity and dignity of the other person. There's a very simple sandwich formula, right? We call it the sandwich formula, with the help of which you can again influence people, impact people, get your point through without hurting them. Now, when we are rude to someone, right, or when we are right on the face of someone, there are two types of reactions that we get. Either people are offensive or they are defensive. Isn't it? Either they will, bounce back, how dare you? Or they will say, they'll find out an alibi and say, this is who is responsible for it, I am not. So your desire to correct that other person has gone in vain. Because either they justified themselves, right? Or you have picked up a fight and you have created an enemy. So what was the point? It's pointless. You can note this down. The experts in communication and interpersonal relationships, they talk about something called as Lodha's ratio. Lodha, Lodha's ratio. Right? For every one criticism, somebody needs 3 positive strokes. For every one negative feedback that you give to someone, which you need to, I'm not saying that. How else other people would improve? You need to share your observations. You need to tell them where is the scope for improvement, right? But for every one criticism, for every one negative stroke, people need 3 positive strokes. When you give them 3 positive strokes is to 1 negative stroke, these 3 positive strokes, what will they do? What will it do? It forms connection. It forms a belief in the other person that this one is a well-wisher. This one does see the good in me too. Isn't it? Normally what happens? Basically what happens in human interactions? Most of us, most of the time, highlight what is not right. Isn't it? Like you get to hear, तुम कभी भी ठीक से काम नहीं करते, तुम कभी भी पढ़ाई नहीं करते, तुम तो मुझे कभी समझते ही नहीं. You understand? Right? So, for every one criticism or every one negative feedback, We need to build up three positives. We got to appreciate people more, my dear friends. We got to tell them how fantastic they are, right? And how much you value their presence in your lives. Tell me, think about it. When was the last you gave a compliment to your own husband, to your own children, to your own colleagues? When was the last? We are very frugal when it comes to compliments. Okay, tell me, when you have to compliment someone, do you have to spend any money in that? Yes or no?
No, ma'am.
Not at all. Do you have to buy expensive gifts? Yes or no?
No, not at all.
Not at all. There is no financial investment. That's what is, we are pretty frugal, all of us, about, right? It's just the way you say things. It's just making someone feel special and good about themselves. And all it takes is words. Words, and words are all I have to take your heart away. What a beautiful song. Why can't we be mindful of our words? What is stopping us from telling someone, hey, you're so special. This really suits you, right? This is really nice. You do exceptionally well when it comes to this particular subject. Hey, you inspire me with this. It takes nothing to give a compliment to someone. Isn't it? Yet we are so frugal. Why? Because we haven't really heard a lot of them. Isn't it? And we can't really radiate something that we don't have within. They say, if you squeeze a lemon, only lemon juice will come out. If you squeeze a orange juice will come out. So what is inside you? If there is love, if there is appreciation, if there is contentment, satisfaction, that's what will radiate. That's what will get squeezed out of you. That's what will come out of you when life squeezes you, or there's a difficult situation or a tricky situation, isn't it? But if we are bitter, if we hold on to grudges, that's what will come out of us when life squeezes us, isn't it? So now make it a conscious practice of telling other people how wonderful they are, how beautiful they are, how special they are. You must be thinking, this woman is crazy. What is she talking about? Right? But that's who we are. Aren't we the sparks of divine? Aren't we unique in our own way, the way we look, the way we interact with the world around us, the way we transact with it? Aren't we unique? Isn't it? Please, you get to see more of what you desire to see. If you're complaining a lot, if you're cribbing a lot, if you're criticizing a lot, life will give you more reasons to complain, crib, and criticize. But if you appreciate things, if you appreciate people, if you express your love and, uh, if you honor things around you, life will give you more opportunities to appreciate and honor and enjoy and experience its beauty, its expansion, and, its wonders. So choose what you want from your life. Right? Most of you would have heard of law of attraction, secret, right? So we tend to attract more around us, or more of those vibrations from around us as what we radiate in the world around us. Because the universe only knows one word, and that's Tathastu. So be it. Right? So become mindful. Now I'll share something with you, or let's do something. Just put one hand on the other hand. Just hold one hand with the other hand like this. Jaise bhi. Okay? Tell me, which hand is above the other hand? Is this right above the left or left above the right?
Right.
Right above the left? Okay. How about others? Is it right above the left or left above the right? Nothing right or wrong about it. Okay, डॉक्टर गरिमा के लिए भी राइट, सो मेरा भी राइट जाता है, इसमें कुछ नहीं होता, there is no assessment. Now do it the other way around. Use the opposite hand. Now it'll feel little awkward. Feel little odd, because you have never done it before. Now let's go back to our original comfortable this thing. Right? Reverse it. Go back. Reverse. पहला वाला. Reverse. Let's do it 5, 7 times. Now, when you put the non-dominant hand over the dominant hand, does it feel as odd as you when it how it felt in the first go? Tell me, yes or no? Now,
No,
when you
not that similar. I think because we get used to the change then.
thank you so much. That's precisely my point is. We are used to criticism or we are used to saying things in a certain manner, right? And I'm asking you to change the paradigm. It'll feel very awkward in the beginning, right? It'll come with a conscious, effort. But when you keep practicing it, when that becomes your conscious way of addressing people or interacting with people, right, you'll get so used to it. That becomes your second nature. You get good at what you practice. So, all I'm asking you is please practice compliments, practice appreciation, right? Honor other people's identity and presence in your life. See what happened in Turkey, Syria. 17 seconds is all it took for everything to fall down and come to zero, come to nothing, right? So, and life is uncertain, isn't it? It is vague. It doesn't come with any warnings, right? So we don't want to live with regrets that, oh, I wish I was kinder. I wish I was more loving to that person. Oh, I never knew this was my last conversation. And, I was nasty with this person. It's not going to forewarn you what's happening next, right? Make every conversation, uh, very sacred. How do you do that? Just by being courteous, polite, encouraging people, and everything, right? Now, coming to the sandwich method, I told you that, whichever position you are in, you got to give feedback to people, right? But how do we give that feedback to people that they do not become offensive or defensive? So in a sandwich, there is a slice of bread, then there is butter, and there is another slice of bread to top it up, to cover it, right? So this niche ka bread ka slice is something. First you start with a compliment. Something I'd given you that project or that job or that, assignment, you did a fantastic job. The effort seemed to be there. I know I can see how much hard work has gone into that, or whatever you see is right. Please start with there. And then you say, but and I want to give you some, some of my observations which might help you develop a better, develop you as a person, or develop certain skills in you, right? That's when you say, that's when you said that, instead of this, if you have tried doing it this way, certainly it is going to give you a better result. Do you think you would like to try it that way? Now, whenever you give a negative compliment or a negative feedback to someone, show them what is in it for them. Why are you doing that? The intention is not to hurt you, right? Or you show it, or to show you down. The intention is to uplift you. The intention is to increase the quality of work, right? Or build up your skill, or push you towards excellence or some kind of competence for you to develop. When you show your intention that whatever you are sharing is an observation which is going to help this person, they will be more receptive, right? And then the last slice is, I know you're so competent and you're so receptive, you're going to take my advice seriously, right? So you start with a compliment, decrease that defensiveness, lower the guard, then you give your advice in a manner the person see that, yes, seeking this advice is going to help me and build me up on my competence, my skill, or it is going to give me my next raise, or it is going to have an impact on my annual report, or it is going to help me in my next promotion, whatever, right? Or it is going to help me build my impact or influence on other people. Show them what is in it for them, right? And then cover it with, I know you will do it because you have the competence, you have the intelligence, you have the receptivity, you have the talent to execute that. Voila, you are sorted, right? So that is why this is manipulation, but look at the intention. The intention is not to harm, but the intention is to get work done in a manner that it lasts with that person for a longer period of time. That's how mentors talk to people. That's not how, don't try to be a boss, please. Don't try to be a teacher or a shikshak, right? There's a difference between guru and shikshak and adhyapak. We are all being adhyapak, right? Level up the game. It's very, very important. Become a mentor to someone, change their lives. Your presence can change so many people's life. Use your profession, use it to influence and impact other people, right? Now, since I'm talking about compliments and appreciation, there's something very important that I want to share with you. People can differentiate between flattery and a genuinely intended compliment, first of all. There is nobody is a fool, please. Right? Now, I know the color of my skin, and you come and say, hey, you look so, ma'am, you're so fair. I'll say something wrong with you. You got to go to a doctor to get your eyesight checked. I have a different shade of skin than what you perceive it or see that, right? Oh, you're so competent, right? You are this, you are that. Please. So whenever you give a compliment, mean it. The intention needs to be clear and pure, right? That is one thing. The other thing is there is a difference between encouragement and praise. Again, this is something I want you to write down. There is a difference between encouragement and praise. Okay? When you're praising people, or let me say, put it this way, you praise people and you encourage their deeds. Hey, you're so beautiful. You're so hardworking. You're so punctual. Right? This is praise. This is when you create an identity out of that person. Okay? Encouragement, on the other hand, is for the effort that has gone into creating something or developing something. Right? So instead of saying you're so hardworking, you see, I can see so much as hard work has gone into this. Now, I'll give you the scientific reason also. Instead of saying that you have done a great job, say, I can see how much commitment it would have taken to create this marvelous piece of whatever project or whatever somebody has undertaken. Because when you encourage the effort, the person would generalize that effort in all the spheres of his life. Not just one project, right? But every project. And not only will this person be recognized, or not only will this person recognize what is appreciated, there's so many other ears, there are so many other students, there are so many other people around who are listening to what is the appreciation about. If you're appreciating me, the other person might be envious or jealous. But if you say, I can see the hard work, the other person will say, oh, hard work is getting visibility. Na? I will also put in hard work. Okay, so we are very fond of saying good child, good boy, good girl, very good, excellent. This is praise. Excellent in what? Good boy for what? अरे good bad के labels से निकाल ही देने चाहिए. These two words, they do not exist in my dictionary. Things are only effective or ineffective. There's nothing good or bad. Isn't it? Something that is considered as maybe a bad pill or a bad substance, right? The same substance, when there is, somebody is in pain, you give the same substance as painkiller, but in measured quantity. So how can that substance be absolutely good or absolutely bad? हो ही नहीं सकता, है ना? So instead of praising people and those, again, traditional standard words, excellent, good, good job to phir bhi chalo, you're talking about what has happened, right? Go beyond good, my dear friends. Express it in lot of words. What is it that you're appreciating in the other person, right? So that it sticks around and stays around with your students. Praise them for their creativity. for their hard work, for their commitment, right? For putting in extra hours of work to create something, that some assignment or some project, right? It's going to stay with them. It will help them when they do their jobs, when they get into the work and become the workforce. They will remember what they were encouraged for, right? And if now the problem with praise is that if it does not happen, right, performance declines. I am praising you, but the next teacher is not. You'll not study the subject at all. Isn't it? That happens, isn't it? So instead of making people the center of attraction, please talk about what they are good at and encourage them and motivate them and push them to become even better at that. Right? It's a service that you do to everyone. Right? So, difference between flattery and a well intended compliment, difference between praise and encouragement, right? And difference between criticism and positive feedback. That's all you. That's what we studied just now. And mastering the art of all these things, how you difference between correction and correction. It is a wonderful subject to study, understand, and then practice. Right? One more thing I want to share you, which is, you know, our names are the sweetest words in the world. No matter how engrossed you are, if you hear your name in the remotest of the area somewhere, your antennas will focus there. You're constantly scanning the environment, and wherever you catch someone taking your name, you get oriented towards yourself. So the easiest trick to connect with people is remember their names, isn't it? Now the question is, how do we do that? Right? Most of us, we say we have very bad memory for names. I was also of a similar belief about myself until I understood that it's never about forming memories. It's always about recalling memories, right? So now, if I tell you, "Hello, I'm Shilpa, and this is what I do," or "What do you do? You do." Instead of focusing on the name, which is a very important thing, our conversations start and we get lost and we take it forward, and everything happened, and then later on you say, "Oh, I met someone. I can't get her name back to me, but we had a very pleasant conversation, this and that." So what happened? You paid attention to everything but my name, or I paid attention to everything but your name. So I can see Anupama's name on my screen, right? So the moment Anupama comes to me and says, "Hello, I'm Anupama," I would say, "Hello, Anupama. Very nice to meet you." And then I will stare, I will pause, and I will make some connections with the name and this person's face. I do not know if anybody's here from Chandigarh or Panchkula. We have a very wonderful joint here called Anupam Sweets. It's a very popular and very old and very famous joint in Panchkula. So I will connect Anupama to Anupam Sweets. Oh, she has a sweet face or a sweet voice, and Anupam Sweets. Now, when I've created that connection, I will not forget Anupama's name. Right? So spend time on people's name, repeatedly call them with their name, address them with their name till the time. See, you get good at what you practice. Right? So overcome that belief, first of all, that I can't remember names. Well, you don't pay attention to them. That is, you don't remember them. One. Two, you don't revise them. That is how you do not remember them. You do not try to recall them in the presence of that person. That is how you do not remember them. The moment you put encoding, storage, and recall in place, you never forget names. And imagine that I'm taking Anupama's name because this is one name which is appearing on my screen. And Anupam and I, we meet each other after 10 years and we both address each other with each other's name. Again, the message is, Anupama is giving me the message that, "Shilpa, you're important for me." And this is the message I'm echoing back to her. That's how I can remember or her name. So I've been teaching for 20 years, right? Not that I'm a superhuman, our memory is super sharp, but yes, you remember your students. isn't it? So somebody will say, ma'am, I was your student 10 years ago. Do you remember me? Of course I do. How can I not remember you? Isn't it? The moment you say that, the other person feels so happy, delighted, and connected. Okay, so these are the small little things that we need to be conscious of, that we need to be aware of, that we need to invest ourselves in to make connections first, and which translate into very strong interpersonal, relationships. And like diamonds, relationships are forever, isn't it? And remember that things are to be utilized, but relationships are to be nurtured. They are like plants, right? We got to invest in them. And there comes a time that the bond becomes so strong that it is bearing fruits now. And it is beyond maintenance now. We have old friends with whom we do not talk every day, but we pick up the threads wherever we left them when we meet them. There is no formality. There is no complaint. You call, तुमने call नहीं किया, तुमने इतने साल याद नहीं किया. Don't get into that conversation when you're meeting someone after a very long time. Okay, set a positive tone. It's so good to see you. I'm so glad that we have met again after so many years, right? Why bring in those unpleasant things in the conversation that really leaves a bad or a sour taste in our mouths? It's in our hand, right? So relationships are a result of first the intention that I desire strong relationships and I desire to connect with people around me. The belief and the desire is the first thing, the intention is the first thing. Then the execution of all the strategies that we learned, right? It will take a little bit of unlearning and a lot of new learning, and not just learning, the execution of that learning for us to transform our relationships to the next level where uh, you don't expect, right? You invest, right? And you make the other person feel nice and special. And that's what will come back and they will echo it back to you as well. Right. So these were the things that I wanted to share with you.